All right, well, welcome to the passenger and cargo load configuration screen for this 767 aircraft. And as the name indicates, this screen enables us to alter the number of passengers as well as the cargo weight in the various cargo compartments of the aircraft. And that essentially changes the weight and balance profile of the aircraft, thereby altering its characteristics, which ends up having a significant impact on all sorts of calculations. The chief one being fuel, which we'll see in a moment. So as you look at the seat map here, looks like a seat map that you're probably presented with when you make a reservation online on a major airline's website. The blank seats indicate unoccupied, and the dark blue colored seats indicate an occupied seat. So I can either make the cabin totally empty, totally full, or something in between, and it basically randomly generates a configuration. Let's see. I think this one looks relatively realistic. It looks like we're about, I don't know, 80% full. If I go to the cargo load, presented with something very similar, I could empty things out. I could make it totally full, and you can see when I make it totally full, several additional parameters and calculations are highlighted in red, meaning that the aircraft is now overweight. So, of course, that's also assuming 125,000 pounds of fuel, which we'll end up with, I think, far less. But let's pick something in between. I think something like about 1/3 full would be appropriate. And that looks about right to me. So basically, a couple of numbers to point out here are the zero fuel weight, 260,370 pounds, which, as the name suggests, means the weight of the aircraft without fuel. And then the total gross weight, you just add the fuel, which right now is 125,000 pounds, and that'll change in a moment. And some of these other calculations, like percent Mach takeoff trim setting, will be determined by the total gross weight, which we don't know yet. But we do know the passenger and cargo weight, which is really the only thing we need to know for fuel planning, since we already know the dry operating weight of the aircraft. That's a static characteristic. So total passenger and cargo weight is 63,370 pounds. So I'm going to save this configuration. And now we're going to go to our fuel planner, and I'm going to input the cruising altitude, which we said was initially flight level 310, 31,000 feet. The route distance, we were going to round up to 301 nautical miles. We're going to pretend that the alternate airport is 30 nautical miles away. We'll say that's Oakland. The cost index is basically a metric that helps estimate the performance and fuel burn characteristics of the aircraft in flight. The average is 80, so we're just going to leave the default. 30 minutes of runtime for the APU, 50 minutes of taxi time. We're going to estimate no hold today. We probably won't have one. Very important, we're specifying that we want to keep 10,000 pounds in reserve. So that's kind of a buffer for us. We don't know the winds aloft. Good reason to have extra fuel. So I'm just going to pretend, probably naively so, that the winds aloft will be 0 knots. Of course, we might end up with a tailwind. We might end up with a headwind. But with such a short flight, I'm not really sure it matters all that much. The passenger and cargo weight combined, we said, was 63,370 pounds. And from that, we should be able to calculate the total fuel, which it's recommending 24,536 pounds. which would include an estimated fuel burn based on that initial fuel weight of 9,927 pounds en route, leaving us 11,787 pounds in reserve. And then it gives us our taxi out weight, and then after burning about 2,800 pounds on taxi, we'll be at this weight, 281 tons for takeoff, and then after burning off another nearly 10,000 pounds, we'll land at 271 tons. And if you look at the aircraft here, the aircraft has a center fuel tank, and then it has fuel tanks over the wing. I think just to simplify things, I'll leave the center fuel tank empty rather than follow their recommendation. We'll put 12,500, which is 25,000 divided by 2. We'll just round up from 24,500. And so I'm electing to put 25,000 pounds on board, so I'm going to update that here, not that it really matters. And you'll see that we have an updated % Mac takeoff trim setting, 19%, 3.4 nose up. So so that's the passenger, cargo weight, and fuel configuration. When we come back, we'll go out to the tarmac and introduce you to the 767.